The call of the Hawks can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
What's up, everybody, and welcome into the Pod at the Palace live, presented by SARACEN, Arkansas's #1 sports betting app. Curtis Wilkerson, Andrew Ellis here with you to talk about the Meleek Thomas news. We waited, the deadline came, the deadline went. What's going on? Is he staying? Is he going? He's staying in the NBA draft that was put out by Jonathan Gavoni just a little bit ago. We're obviously on our way to Lawrence, Kansas. Bear with us here. We're hot spotting it. We're sitting at a picnic bench outside of a Sonic here in Joplin. We had to find a place to do this. So, if it gets a little bit shaky there, sorry, we're doing the best that we can. But so here we are. We were up, an hour past the deadline, Andrew, and just kind of waiting to see what happened. A lot of suspense there. But what turned out to happen with all of this is exactly what we expected, right? Yeah. I mean, Meleek Thomas stays in the draft. Billy Richmond back to Arkansas. I will say this, because I know people might be like, oh, man, did they not pay him? What's going on? Why is everybody else getting their first-round picks back and everything? As I understand it, John Calipari worked very, very hard to try and get this done in the midnight hour. Made a big push to get Meleek Thomas back, pulled a bunch of strings. Was the bag up? I tend to think that maybe it probably was there late, but it's not always about the money. And you got a guy like Meleek Thomas who bets on himself and has just this supreme level of confidence. Sometimes they're just ready to go. And he got a lot of great feedback on some of his visits. I know there's talks out there about did he get a promise here, a promise there? Regardless of whether he did or not, with the amount of guys who have dropped out of the draft to go back to school, he's really positioned himself to most likely wind up being a first-round pick there. So not mad at Meleek Thomas, other than it drug out as long as it did. Wish him well. I think he's going to kill it in the league. He was an awesome hog. And here we go. They had to get at least one of the two. They did that.
Yeah, all in all, it wound up playing out kind of how we expected it to play out, how we thought it might, and how it kind of just made sense. I mean, if you go back to even the first day that Meleek Thomas arrived on campus at Arkansas, we expected this dude to be a one and done. He turns out to be a one and done. And it's a bummer because of how cool it would have been to get Meleek Thomas back. If Meleek Thomas had come back, we were talking about on the way up here, you feel like that would make Arkansas like a top 5 to 10 preseason team just right off the bat, even without even any other moves. And obviously we'd assume they would add a center at some point. So it's disappointing because of what it would have meant to get a guy like that back. But it's not disappointing in a we're mad at Meleek Thomas kind of way. Dude's got to do what he's got to do. He's going to go make his money. He's going to represent the program very well. It's also not even disappointing from an Arkansas is screwed kind of way. This would have been really like the ultimate icing on the cake. We'll see what Arkansas does next. We'll see if that means if there's any backup plan B for the backcourt. But really what I think this does, big picture for the Arkansas roster, is puts a little bit more pressure on whatever you're going to do at the center position. If there is some kind of rabbit in the hat that Arkansas is going to pull out of. And I think we talked yesterday when we thought that Billy Richmond wasn't coming back to Arkansas. We were like, man, this is going to be really tough to sell to the fan base. Yeah. And, Meleek Thomas not coming back to Arkansas could certainly be viewed as tough to sell to the fan base. But this all of a sudden makes that Jeremiah Wilkinson addition even more huge, where that guy's going to have to step up. We were even asked yesterday on the show, like, what is that going to mean for Billy Richmond's playmaking responsibility? He's probably going to have to shoulder a little bit more of that load. Jordan Smith Jr. is going to have to be ready to roll day one. And all of these things are perfectly fine. But for today, we're just a little bit sad that we weren't getting an All-American level player back at Arkansas, which would have been awesome. But ultimately, this is probably how this was supposed to play out.
Yeah. To me, this wasn't it wasn't the difference in, okay, you're all set versus, ooh, you're screwed if he leaves. It was more or less, okay, if Meleek Thomas comes back, you've got the best backcourt in the country. And if he doesn't, you still have a very, very strong one. And it was almost built in a way that you could absorb it if he left. I'm with you. I'm curious to see if they do anything at all. I tend to think because they got Billy back that they might just stand pat when it comes to guards. Could they go add somebody, maybe get a little bit more ball handling, somebody who could take some of that the 3-point shooting loss that you're seeing here with Meleek Thomas and help you with that? Maybe if they did that with maybe reclassify a 2027 guy, I could see that. I'm not necessarily anticipating it. Obviously, I agree with you 100%. Not getting Meleek Thomas back, for me, that just says, okay, I need you to do more at the 5 then. They were going to have to add one anyway, but you get Leek back and you got all those guards and it's so dynamic. To me, it's like, hey, man, just get a dude who can block some shots and rebound the basketball and we're going to be okay. Now I think they need to get a pretty solid contributor that can help you on both sides of the ball. They need a bona fide SEC starter at the 5. If you get that, you pair it with these freshmen, you pair it with Billy Richmond coming back, Wilkerson coming in, I think you're off to a really good start to having another great season.
Yeah, I would agree. And like we said yesterday, even when we thought Billy Richmond wasn't coming back to Arkansas, we were like, we need to have that perspective of it's not like Arkansas is going to be bad. It's not like they're screwed in any way, shape, or form. You just wonder, are they going to be pretty good, or are they going to be great? And Meleek Thomas, getting a guy like that would have certainly pushed you in that category of definitely being a great team and having a chance to do something special. They're going to have to do it in a roundabout way. I do, not to pocket watch here, but we do that sometimes on the program. Arkansas and everything you've heard was kind of that Arkansas was prepping financially to get Meleek Thomas back. And, even if you don't think it's going to happen, you need to be prepared for something like that. Similar to how last year they had a bag prepared for Adu Thero. He wound up deciding to stay in the draft. All power to him. He's doing a great job over there. But then they were able to use that money to get a couple guys in the front court. Now, those guys in the front court didn't necessarily pan out, but you can see how if you don't spend money in one side, now you have a little bit money extra to left over to work with. And so for, whether that means someone like Handlogden, maybe that means someone like Ewan, maybe that means there's some reclass option, like you said. I do feel like Arkansas does have the funds in place to do that. So again, this is not Arkansas is now broke boys because they couldn't get Meleek Thomas to turn down being a first round pick. I think Arkansas has got some interesting options, and I think Thomas and Darius Acuff, what they meant to the program, one in their 1 year they played, but also having 2 freshman guards that are going to be first round picks in all likelihood. I assume Meleek Thomas is staying in for a specific reason. With all those guys coming out, I think he's got a very good chance to go in the first round. I think that has a pretty big impact on your program as well. And, when you're recruiting those high school guys, you don't usually say, hey, come play for me for 2 years. You say, hey, come be a one and done and get drafted in the first round. And there is still a very positive side of that from Meleek Thomas staying in the draft and getting drafted in the first round. And he's going to be a great ambassador for the University of Arkansas.
Yeah, and not to take anything away from the first group of freshmen that Cal brought in, Boogie, Carter, obviously Billy's still with the program. That was great, but it felt like this past season, that group was the first real freshman class, Calipari class, because of, he took the job late and you're trying to flip guys or whatever. And this is the full cycle that he had at Arkansas, which just sets the stage for everything moving forward. Man, when you get guys like Acuff and Thomas to come in and do what they did, kind of the vintage Calipari type dudes, it's not the Kentucky guys. This is what Cal does, man. He's still able to get players like that who can have that impact. That's why you have a Jordan Smith Jr. coming in. It's why you have an Abdou Toure and some of these other young fellas. And it's why you're in a position to continue to get some really good players here moving forward. High school is the avenue, man, for John Calipari. That's his wheelhouse. And the way I look at it, there's like 3 pillars to roster building. And there's a lot of nuance that goes into getting the right pieces and fits and everything, but it's retention, it's high school, and it's portal. And you got to be elite at least one of them. And Arkansas is certainly that when it comes to the high school ranks here. I'm going to be really interested to see how they supplement things here moving forward. But what's funny is going into the offseason, I think most people probably thought, yeah, like Acuff's gone for sure. Yeah, Leek is probably going to stay in the draft. Hopefully you get Billy back. We could have argued about DJ and Carter or whoever, but the biggest priority coming in the offseason was, what are they going to do with that front court, man? Because that's what killed us against Arizona. It's what killed us against, Florida or whoever. And that still remains to be the question. I think that's going to be the determining factor on just how good or maybe how high of a ceiling this team has. Meleek Thomas could have changed that for me. Like, I really think it was a majorly consequential decision because that's the type of thing where it's like, okay, you're a bona fide at this point. You are a Final Four contender. You are in that conversation. Not having him doesn't mean that you can't get there, but there's more work left to be done. If you ask me about Arkansas's roster right now, I'm with you. I still think they're going to be very good. I think they're certainly a top 25 team, probably a top 20 team, but are they in that elite category or in that, that short list of, wow, man, these are the teams that look like they're going to, maybe compete for a championship? I don't think they're there yet. So I need to see what they do at the center position. Would have been nice to have Leek back, though. Good. Yeah. Could you imagine the dynamic with that backcourt? No.
100% agreed. And, as much as we talk about the front court, and that was the big thing going into the offseason, had they gotten Meleek Thomas back, Curtis, me personally, I would have been okay to be like, you know what, we're just average in the front court, but We have literally the best backcourt in the country. We've got 2 huge returners back. We got 2 guys to turn down the draft. Like, personally, for me, like, I would have still liked to see them maybe go out and add an extra body. But, like, it would have been a lot easier to, we always have to talk ourselves into one thing or another. It would have been a little bit easier for me to look past whatever wound up happening at the center position. Now that Meleek Thomas is not in the fold, okay, it's not the end of the world. But now it's really hard for me to look past whatever it is you're going to do at the 5. And so if you aren't able to go out there and get, like you said, a bona fide SEC starter, that's going to be a little bit of a tough one for me to sell myself on, especially now knowing that you have the ability to do it, that you have some money left over. And, it's not that there's an overwhelming abundance of options out there, but if there's one good center left in the portal, you should be the team lined up first in line to get that guy. And we'll see if Arkansas is going to get in any of these other races with some of these guys. But I think it does. Again, it just, pressure is maybe not the right word, but it just puts a little bit more urgency on that situation. And again, I think this is a message that Cal should be saying to the locker room of like, hey, we no longer have this guy that could have overcome a lot and could have kind of done a lot of things on his own. You guys all have to be better. All of you guys have to level up. It's just like whenever you have a guy out for injury, everyone on your team kind of has to get 5% better. There's now a little bit more pressure on all these freshmen, but it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's just going to be a different roster construction, different identity, and we'll see if they're able to make it work.
Yeah, and it's the Calipari way too, man. That's kind of the double-edged sword of having a guy like this. I know we've talked about it before, but the reason he is able to get guys like Darius Acuff and Meleek Thomas is because of his track record of developing them and getting them to the league right away.
Yeah.
And the Calipari guard, it's a brand, it's a thing, man. Like, go look at the NBA right now. And the beauty of it is you can get guys like that. And the hard part about it is you're probably going to lose them after a year. It's like you're going to have that turnover with Cal unless the guys stink or they don't hit. Then, yeah, maybe they come back for sure. But typically he's the one and done king.
Wagner.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he's the one and done king for a reason. And that's okay, as long as you continue to backfill with the same amount of talent in those high school classes year in and year out. They got the #1 class in the country. You got the #1 guard in the country coming in. Okay, great. Now we need those guys to be very good. That remains to be seen. And I'm going to be fascinated to see what it looks like with them. It's going to be a different identity for Arkansas next year. Not that they won't be able to score. They got a bunch of talented guys out there. Not that they won't be able to shoot. Last year's team, we had some questions about that three-point shooting before we realized Acuff and Leak were both absolute snipers.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they'll figure that part of it out. But what we do know is that they're going to have more of an identity on the defensive end of the floor if they solve the issues at the 5. I know people were tired of hearing about it, but it's true. Like, it's the biggest factor on the team right now. But if you look at a Jordan Smith Jr., you look at these versatile wings with Billy Richmond and with Abdu Torre and all these guys, and Jeremiah Wilkinson was top 10 in the SEC in steals. So you're going to have a disruptive defensive team that's going to be much improved, I think, on that end of the floor. And if you're generating turnovers, you're going to get some easy ones in transition. It's going to be a different look. We were spoiled a little bit. We've kind of been waiting. I mean, Eric Musselman didn't have any like super dynamic, high-octane offensive teams. We had that this year, and I was like, well, this is cool because we can just outscore teams, and which is something that I haven't been able to do in the past. I think they're going to be a little bit more locked down this year. We'll see where the firepower comes from, but here we are.
And when everything kind of works out how it needs to for a reason, and we might, and it's all going to eventually, like Arkansas' ceiling, and we said this last year, Arkansas' ceiling is going to be determined by these freshmen, by how good they are, by how ready they are to compete right away. And that's going to be the biggest question that we're going to have to figure out in the first couple months of the season is, we know Jordan Smith Jr. is good, and I would say he's the safest bet to contribute right away out of all those guys. What does that year one Abdu Torre really look like? What does year one Mika Muranen look like? What does year one JJ Andrews look like? I think it, maybe perhaps the absence of Meleek Thomas, one, it puts more pressure on those guys, but also maybe gives them more room to cook. And so, not to say that any of those guys, none of those guys that I just listed are going to be better than Meleek Thomas would have been, but could you just kind of add it all up? Could his absence maybe force some of these guys to play a little bit more, have a little bit more responsibility? Maybe like you said, your identity's just a little bit different. But I think we got to address the elephant in the room, Curtis. This wouldn't have been nearly as bad had this announcement just come yesterday.
Yeah.
And had we not stayed up and did an impromptu live stream at midnight, and were we not sitting right in between a Sonic and a McDonald's? I don't know if you can see on my camera here. That's a Mickey D's right there, and right in front of us is a Sonic. We're right in the middle of them, too.
We're right by. I don't know if
nice
that's
little volleyball.
Is this a McPlay place? Does this belong to Sonic? There's like
it's
a playground
cool,
beside us, a volleyball court. Yeah, this is where we're at, and we're not going to be here too much longer, folks, because we're on the way to Lawrence.
Yeah, we got business to take care of.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for that. We're going to get to your chats in just a second, and then we'll get out of here. But I got to tell you though, the saddest part about all of this is we're not going to be able to have Meleek Thomas back at Blue Ember. And that was the beauty of it all, man. We had such a great time with him and Amir Brown. Really appreciate those dudes. We'll get somebody else at some point, but got to give a shout out to Blue Ember. We appreciate them for all their support throughout the course of the year, and we appreciate them for their really, really good barbecues. You guys know they have 6 locations across the state of Arkansas in Fort Smith, Jonesboro, Texarkana, Little Rock, Hot Springs, and Rogers. They will cater for you. You can have private events there. If you're interested in any of that, give them a call. You can see the phone numbers for your local locations on the screen there. You can scan the QR code or go to the website, www.blueembersmokehouse.com. We just need one more Nacho Monday with Meleek Thomas. If he would have shown up, I sent him the invite. I sent it to his calendar. I think he was probably a little bit busy. That might have been the deciding factor.
Well, hey,
blame us.
We're only 16 minutes into this stream. There's plenty of time for John Rothstein to pull a little switcheroony on us.
That would be crazy. Oh, that would be wild.
It would be.
Happened here. Maybe they just, Cal softens the blow by announcing, the addition of a big man at some point today. Okay? And then we'll go live from Paul Gallen Fieldhouse and talk about it. So that would be kind of fun. Let's get into your chats. Appreciate everybody for hanging out with us. I see that we've got a couple that are still here from late last night, early this morning, whatever you want to call it, which is absolutely ridiculous. Let's see. I think we got a couple super chats. We'll make sure we get to those first. Washburn Idol says, we'll miss having Leak, but he was a great hog. Every time a big name announced they were coming back, his stock kept rising. Yeah. It's fitting the paper, rock, scissor hogs went one and done together. That's going to be an iconic, moment to remember between those two dudes and Leak robbing the free throws from him, which is hilarious. But yeah, man.
And what is going to be another iconic moment? Watching both those guys get drafted in the first round.
Yep.
Which does seem like it is kind of crazy that we've reached this stage where we're kind of bummed out that we're going to add another first round guard to the list here because, there was a long time of my life where Arkansas didn't really have any first round guards. And now we're bummed that there's going to be a second one in this class. But that is going to be a cool moment for the program, seeing those two guys. Maybe they'll play rock, paper, scissors at the draft. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're most likely going to have two. You're going to have a lottery hog, another first round hog, and then another guy who gets drafted in Trevin. I mean, 3 Razorbacks. That's a pretty good sign. And like we said with Cal, man, with each guard that leaves and goes in the first round, it almost, you can take it to the bank. You're getting ready to get another one. So, okay. Let's see. From Addison, appreciate you, says another family helped. Yeah, we're marking them off the list. One more step closer to retirement. Congratulations, Thomas family.
Man, what a roller coaster. Leak sure was fun to root for. Thanks for the coverage. Here's some dollars for the Mickey D's breakfast fund. Well, we appreciate that for sure. And appreciate Leak.
No 20-piece being housed today.
Yeah.
My stomach is actually happy about this news.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
I was actually thought about it for a little bit. I was a little bit stressed. I'm like, if I have to eat another 20-piece, I'm probably going to have to make you stop a few times on the way to Lawrence.
Heartbroken Hog said there's no way he's staying in the draft without knowing he's for sure he's first round. Yeah, I mean, he's got to have a pretty good indication at this point. Honestly, when you're the very last guy to make your decision, and who knows when it actually went in. And again, as I understand it, between him and his agent and Cal and the staff, those conversations went deep into last night. But when you get down to just the last few decisions, a bunch of guys opted to go back to college yesterday. Leak already projected as a back-end first rounder. He might wind up going 22nd or 23rd when it's all said and done after this. Probably feels really good about it. I know he had a bunch of teams showing a lot of interest in him. So
we talked about yesterday the guy from that wound up committing to St. John's, who him and Meleek were both meeting with the Knicks, and then one decides to leave, one decides to stay in. It's it might not be that simple, but if the Knicks do wind up drafting Meleek Thomas, which would be kind of cool, him and MSG, we could maybe look back at that and be like, oh, that was probably the moment he made that decision.
Yeah, I would say so. Rose says, although it was expected, it still sucks seeing Leak go. He'll kill it in the league. Yeah, just because news is expected doesn't mean it's not unfortunate. Yeah. And that's definitely the case. I really, like I've pulled up, and I know it's just like analytics, so it's whatever, and it's hard to project for freshmen and stuff. But like on Torvik, for example, they've got the where you're at based on your top 10 rotation guys projection, and with Meleek Thomas and no big man added or whatever, but like with Leak, Arkansas was 10th. Take them away, they dropped to 19th. And that one guy with that huge of a swing, it's like, good grief, man. But other guys will elevate their play. You know, some of these freshmen are going to be better than maybe those projections say. And then for the love of God, if they get a starting center, I'm sure they're going to be right up there where they typically are. Let's see. We've got Hickory Hog again says, was Cal waiting for Leak and Billy to make their decision before signing a 5? If we paid a 5 a big bag before their agents would have been able to use that against Cal. No.
That should be independent, right?
Yeah, I mean they've known for a year that they had to go out and get a 5. Like that's a big part of the offseason budget. Malik Ewan off the books, Nick Pringle off the books, Trevin Brazil off the books. You know, Carter leaves, DJ leaves. Like if you're doing that kind of math with the NIL, which it's not always like an apples to apples comparison each year, but they had plenty left over to go out and solidify this front court. While also knowing it was going to cost them to keep Billy Richmond and Meleek Thomas. Cal had already gone out and secured more money to try to get Obinna Akizi when they were working on that reclass. So, no, I don't think that's what it was. Now, here's the question, because I know you've kind of talked about it. They've got kind of their pool or whatever they have for the 5. Do they take what they offered Meleek Thomas and push that into the pot to try to make a big splash? How big of a splash is there out there
in the pot?
How big of a splash is there out there to make at this point? Like, if somebody gets a waiver, that's great. Is there some, monster international guy that we don't know about? We'll see.
Might just be court fees trying to get these guys eligible,
Yeah. Do we have a friendly Fayetteville judge that can do us a favor here? So I don't know. Big Lefty, he's in. He says, I'll take a 20-piece nugget and a Diet Coke.
Well, you're going to have to wait till 10:30 whenever they start serving lunch.
As long as you do the Diet Coke, it's fine. It's no big deal.
Yeah, it cancels out those extra, however many nuggets.
Yeah. And there's Peyton. He says, alas, the Blue Ember brisket was not enough to entice Leak. Full accountability, fellas. Yeah, let's pin this on Peyton.
It's
we
definitely
took the blame,
Peyton's fault.
But that's not fair. Yeah.
Let's try and get Billy Richmond to Blue Ember, though. That should be our next target.
Yeah, that is our next target for sure.
I'm sure it won't cost that much.
No, of course not. Of course not. John?
Yeah, come on. Make it happen.
Heartbroken Hog says, I think we need more than just an SEC starter. We need a guy who will be among the top 5 or 6 centers in the conference to be a Final Four type team, in my opinion.
Y'all want to know who would, and they're going to stone me for this, Curtis. Y'all know who would objectively be one of the 6 best centers in the SEC?
I know what you're going to say, and I agree. Go ahead.
Maleek Ewan.
He would.
Maleek Ewan would be, and I know it sounds crazy because he's soft and he doesn't have a motor. There wouldn't be 6 centers better than him in the SEC.
Agreed.
And, now would he be the driving force of Arkansas going to the Final Four? I don't know, but I'd take Maleek Ewan back in a heartbought.
Yeah, because
I'll take one leak if I can't get one.
Exactly. If you look at the SEC right now, it's like Chinyalu at Florida. It's Vocatitis at Texas.
Yeah.
Moreno at Kentucky, I think, will take a pretty big leap forward. Like he's probably in that upper tier. After that,
there's not a ton of established bigs, which, by the way, when you're in, not that I want Arkansas to go in with another hole at the 5, but that's the thing that we kind of talked about last year where it's like how many teams are actually built to exploit Arkansas's weakness? How many teams are truly going to be able to just pound it in the front court against Arkansas? A few, but it's not going to be as consistent as you might think.
Yeah, and with a guy like Bowser, and by the way, no, we're not selling you that they're done and Bowser's your starter or whatever. But he will help improve Arkansas's pick and roll defense. He's a versatile guy. He's an athletic guy. There are things about, and he was all defense in his conference. I know it's the SoCon or whatever. I think people get hung up on, Terrace Reed did to him and his teammate in the NCAA tournament. Yes, if you're dump the ball into the paint to Chinyalu or Vocatitis or somebody like that, and you leave a Cooper Bowser out on an island, more often than not, that's not going to go well for him. That wouldn't go well for Micah Hanlogden if they get him. It didn't go well for Jalen Williams against Colin Castleton and some of these other dudes when Muss used to do that. One-on-one post defense is tough. And now if you've got the versatility to be able to dig down a little bit more, if your guards can keep people in front, shouldn't be as big of a deal for you. I'm going to be interested to see who they add. They've got to do it no matter what. Yeah. It's almost like you got to get a best available, most talented available type of player. Ideally, though, they would get somebody with the girth. We've talked about that a ton, but
need the girth.
You got the athleticism and everything, the above the rim play with a guy like Bowser. Get a meatball in there that's not going to get pushed around the paint, that'll do some pushing around and be able to get on the boards and block some shots, and I think you'll be okay.
And again, and we had this conversation a lot last year. Obviously, the last game we watched was Arizona, big boy in Arkansas, and embarrassing them. We all also remember the Florida game where they embarrassed Arkansas, were bigger than them, more physical. Mm-hmm. How long is that list of teams that effectively beat Arkansas because they out-physicaled them? There's maybe 3 teams on that list.
Yeah, Florida for sure. Arizona.
But like that genuinely, other teams beat Arkansas. Like Georgia beat Arkansas, but it wasn't because Santos Cyril was posting them up.
Right.
They just clamped Arkansas up and hit a bunch of. Jeremiah Wilkerson actually balled out on them. There weren't that many teams. Like even the teams like Aiden Sherrill had a. Well, I guess Bama technically you could throw that in there because Aiden Sherrill had a big game.
He did, yeah.
But it was real. I mean, their point guard had 35 and 6. You know what I mean? There weren't that many teams as many teams that had success. The big guy from Missouri had success against Arkansas, but he didn't beat them. There were a lot of teams who had big guys pop off, and we proved that that wasn't an effective way to beat Arkansas for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Wonder who they're going to get. We'll talk about it. We still got a couple hours left to drive. Hickory Hog, just a few more and we'll get out of here. Appreciate everybody for hanging out with us literally all day yesterday and here randomly. It's kind of ominous. Like I'm glad we didn't start getting stormed on or something. That would have been a nice wrinkle to add to this. Does Meleek Thomas realize how many people are half awake at work right now because we were waiting on his decision all night, including us? Yeah. I don't think he cares. That's fine. Says Meleek would have been an All-American next year, probably a top 5 guard in the country. I think he would have been.
He would have been on a preseason everything list.
Yeah.
Like preseason Wooden, preseason first team All-SEC, preseason.
And that's the thing. So for me, because like I said, I think that would have given you the elite, one of the better backcourts in the country type of scenarios there. But not so from that standpoint, I'm let down. But if you were replacing Meleek Thomas with another potential All-SEC guard who scored more points than him in the league last year with Wilkinson. Meleek Thomas is a better player than Jeremiah Wilkinson, but that's dang near as good as you could have done. Like, how do you replace Darius Acuff, the best guard in the country? You bring in the number 1 guard in the country in the freshman class. If you have to replace Meleek Thomas, who was a big-time shooter and a microwave scorer, who averaged 16 a game in the SEC, you go get a guy who's a big-time shooter and a microwave scorer who averaged 17 a game in the SEC. Yeah. So I see the vision.
How do you replace Billy Richmond? You just bring Billy Richmond back.
You bring Billy back. Exactly.
You find a finished version of Trevin Brazil. I mean, it's just how do you replace Nick Pringle? Cooper Bell.
Now they just got to replace Ewan. Maybe year 2 Ewan. Doesn't sound like they want to do that, but I was even saying in the Discord, like I also don't have a spine or a backbone. I would have already gone back to Malik Ewan. If he's getting his waiver or whatever, I'm like, hey, listen, buddy. Let's bury the hatchet here.
Listen, if Malik Ewan can go make some money somewhere else, what is he going to do that's more fun than playing at Arkansas?
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. We could bring him to Blue Ember. Wouldn't be very talkative, but we could bring him to Blue Ember, Billy Richmond coming back confirmed. There is a God, and he does do nice things for Arkansas sometimes. Yes, it's you went 1 for 2. Like you're batting 500 when it comes to these draft guys this year. Given it's John Calipari, I'll take it.
Sure. Yeah.
Not getting now. Had Billy not reversed course on his decision, and if we were sitting here right now and they had just lost both of those guys, I mean, it'd be like nuclear fallout.
Oh my God.
That's about as bad as it could possibly
get. we were staring it right in the face, man. I was about to be a brutal stream yesterday.
Yeah, that would have been really, really tough. See, Billy Richmond and Joyer, we touched on that, but I'll hit on it again real quick. Do we grab another guard? JSJ and Wilkinson need an extra set of hands. If it was me, I would. And even after they had made the moves that they did, we were waiting on these announcements. I was told that they were still looking at guards, evaluating guards, talking to some guards. Most of those are probably off the table by now. You can, Abdou Toure, he's listed as a shooting guard, his recruiting profile. He's got to tighten up his handle and stuff. He's a guy that can play the 2 for you. We know Billy's, he's a wing. He's played plenty of guard. You've got options there, but 2 true guards, ball handler types right now would really be nice to have another there. If they do it, I don't really see much left in the portal. I have to go look and see what the scraps are like. Maybe an international guy. I don't know. It doesn't seem like Cal is super, super keen on that. Reclassing a 2027 kid would make a lot of sense to me. Their contingency plan, if Carter Knox stayed in the draft last year, was to try to get Abdou Toure to reclassify to join the team a year early. So I could see them having something like that. I know people are going to be like, Beckham Black. I don't know if that would be the one necessarily, given Jordan Smith Jr.'s presence and stuff, but could it be
such a high level guy?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like if I'm Beckham Black, I probably want to wait and play the market a little bit.
Right. Could it be De'Vion Cleveland? Could it be a King Gibson or somebody like that? Maybe, but I think one of those, top 30-ish level 4-star guys who's already 18 years old, that could make a little bit of sense. We'll see if they do it. If it was me, I would, just to give yourself a little bit of flexibility, because you're fine right now. But we've seen this every year with Carter going down, with Adu going down last year, with Boogie going down. I don't know that we're going to have the type of depth necessarily that we thought they were going to have, or that maybe Cal talked about. Yeah, we need an extra body or two, especially in that backcourt. And heaven forbid, like you don't want any injuries. But dude, if Jordan Smith Jr. missed a period of time, or if Wilkerson missed a period of time, you're super, super thin there. So I know even yesterday at the SEC meetings in Destin, Cal said, and he's like, hey, we're waiting to see what happens with Leak and Billy here. But we might add another guard, like a big guard, and we might add. I know he said we may, and I know that pissed a lot of people off.
Yeah.
A big man there. They're going to add a big man, but maybe since they split the difference, then he's more compelled to go add a guard. We'll see. Last one here from Robert Williams. Did y'all make it to Kansas safe? No.
We are in the beautiful state of Missouri right now.
We are in Missouri. We're somewhere like outside of Joplin.
Yeah. We won't be. We're not too far away, though.
Yeah.
We'll get there. We'll get there when we get there.
We will, indeed.
We might get there just in time for Dave to say that Gabe Gackel's getting the ball tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah. I think
which everyone's going to, they'll turn from being pissed about this to being pissed at Gabe Gackel starting, and we'll just make the most of what we can.
Exactly.
Hey, the softball game day today.
Yes, softball. Yeah, get the College World Series thing started here. That'll be fun. Looking forward to getting up there and seeing John and Cameron. Appreciate them for getting the stream and everything set up for us while we were dealing with the maps, trying to find somewhere to come and do this thing. But it's a group effort around here. But we are going to get out of here though, because we got to finish this drive and get up to Lawrence. Be on the lookout for us at 2 p.m. Is that what we said for Inside Arkansas Live today? So a little bit of a later start. I'm sure we'll talk plenty of baseball. We'll talk about this. We'll talk about Hunter Yurachek, whining about kickoff times. We got a lot, so make sure you tap in with us, and appreciate everybody for being along for the ride. And you know the deal. Subscribe to the Inside Arkansas YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Turn those notifications on, because sometimes we just randomly pop up from playgrounds in Joplin, Missouri. You guys have a good rest of your morning. We'll see you in a little bit. For Andrew Ellis, it's been Curtis Wilkerson with the Pod at the Palace. So long, Meleek Thomas.